Here today with Mike Graham, one of the most popular presenters at Talk Radio. By one of this country's best media presenters, Talk Radio's Julia Hartley-Brewer. By Isabel Oakeshott, one of the top political journalists and commentators in this country. Brexit hero and Conservative MP Nigel Evans. With Toby Young, the founder of the Free Speech Union. Well, yes. Annunziata Rees-Mogg, the former Conservative MEP.
So, thanks for coming on the show, Madeline.
Hello, Tom. Welcome to the channel.
Hi, great to be here.
Now we're joined by the one and only Nigel Farage. How are you, Nigel?
Fine, thanks, Mike. Good, yeah.
Some of us are moving on. Not everybody's apparently accepting the results. Right, let's talk about Greta Thunberg. The EU member states attacked the Commission and Germany are now in trouble. If we need more nurses, we will bring more nurses. If we don't need low-skilled workers, we won't bring low-skilled workers. So I'm currently on Edgware Road and this place is absolutely crazy. I mentioned Owen Jones having this weird meltdown for absolutely no reason. They don't know what's about to come. This building is about to cause chaos again. Like one of these. But, well, these are actual real flags, but the European Union flag, one of those fake flags. Hello everybody, welcome to 2CTV and another live stream. Just a quick heads up, as a reminder, if you're watching this not live, afterwards, two things. One, actually if you're watching it live, the auto caption, the subtitles might not actually work. Secondly, if you're watching it straight after the live stream, you might see thousands of views but no comments. It's because the live chat is different to the comment section. People have already been talking in the live chat. People always freak out when the live stream turns into record a video. Like, where are the comments? Anyway, let's talk about what's going on. The latest updates from the Israel and Hamas conflict. Things are changing rapidly, obviously. So none of the updates that we or the other media outlets have been talking about are predictions because they change very quickly. But as things stand, Hamas and the leadership have already signaled quite clearly and obviously that they are going against their original plan. And I'm going to explain what the original plan was supposed to be and why they are surrendering when it comes to the original plan. Hello to everybody in the live chat. We're going to come to you guys to get your reaction as usual. First, let's talk about Khalid Mashal, the political leader of the Hamas tribe. So, he basically, well, the breaking news that we just had minutes ago was that civilians and the hostages will be freed if Israel stop their airstrikes on Gaza. Now, going back to what Mashal and the other Hamas leadership actually said, when they were asked why you took the civilians as hostages, what did they say? What was the plan? What was the original plan from Hamas? Oh yes, it was to exchange them with the terrorists who are prisoners in Israel. That was the whole point. The whole point was for them to keep them alive, the Israeli hostages, to then exchange them one by one with their own, the terrorists who are prisoners in Israel. And now they're saying, because Israel went completely crazy over the last 24 hours in terms of the airstrikes, especially earlier this morning, it was completely non-stop. And unfortunately, there were a lot of casualties as well, which the media have already been talking about a lot. Now they're changing their mind. Now they're saying, okay, hands up. If you stop the airstrikes, we will release the hostages. Which means the whole point of the plot, the terrorist plan that they had, is completely redundant now. Which is good, by the way. It's a good thing. I'm just saying, the whole waste of going to invade a country, and obviously a lot of people also lost their lives, and now this guy, by the way, this is what's coming from him, Khalid Mashal. Like, these people lie, so let's not take everything they say as a guarantee. In June, the exact same statement, he also said, look at this, in regards to the innocent civilians who lost their lives in Israel when they invaded Israel 2 weeks ago. He said, if there were any civilians, if any of them lost their lives as a result of the invasion of Hamas. This was definitely not intended. So, your soldiers went into Israel, went into music festivals, residential areas, targeted civilians. They filmed it themselves to boast about it. And now you say, if any civilian lost their lives, it wasn't really intended. That wasn't really the plan. Either you have no control over your organization, which is not true, or you're lying again, which is the latter. Now, to reassure you that they are definitely scared, and especially when it comes to the reaction from America, because obviously yesterday they released 2 Americans because I was terrified of America's reaction to the whole incident, the conflict. We just heard about half an hour ago from Trey Yingster that 2 other hostages, Israeli hostages, have now been released from Gaza. It's actually been confirmed. But this was obviously half an hour ago. Fox News confirmed it. Trey confirmed it. And also now the Hamas leadership have confirmed. Another source briefed on the matter has confirmed that they were released following the Qatari mediation efforts. So clearly, the plan is not working for Hamas. The whole point of taking the hostages to use them as leverage to get their own terrorists released by Israel, that's not going well. First, they gave in to the pressure from the Americans. They released 2 Americans. And now, already, another couple of hostages to Israel. And now they're saying, actually, we are ready to put our hands up and say, if you stop the airstrikes on Gaza, we will release the hostages. Now, there is one issue with this. The way it seems is very different to what happened in the 60s and, of course, in the 80s and all the other times when the Arab side attacked Israel. It seems like, as far as we know, that Israel and Netanyahu and the whole government and IDF, they are very, very serious about going after Hamas. It seems like, according to Israel, if that is true, if the conviction from the Israeli government is true, then this giving up the plan and surrendering to the original plot of the actual plot, Hamas obviously taking hostages and now releasing them, thinking that Israel could just back down, might not end well for Hamas. If we go with what we know so far, that Israel have vowed, regardless of what happens, we are going in, we're going to go after every single Hamas soldier and leader, then it doesn't matter if Hamas are surrendering and saying, we're going to release all the hostages. This could be the end. But it's not going to be the end in that sense, because we're going to get escalations from Iran, from Lebanon, from Turkey. Everywhere is going to be chaotic. But again, it depends who else is going to join. Because if you're going to get China get involved, if you're going to get Russia to get involved, if you're going to get then America and NATO to get involved, then of course, we know what's going to happen. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants an international conflict in that sense. But if these guys are basically saying, okay, ceasefire, just stop the airstrikes, because as I said, what we saw about over the last 24 hours, non-stop airstrikes, it's been completely aggressive from the Israeli side. They're not joking around. And now, obviously, the mainstream media here, they have been completely reporting on what's going on in Gaza, inside Gaza, and the government's also been under pressure. The BBC have been pretty much anti-Israel with the whole narrative. Sky News the same. On the one hand, the Western leaders are coming out to say, we are behind Israel. On the other hand, they are under pressure from the human rights groups to do this. So we just got the announcement from Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, that we are sending UK taxpayers' money, extra, £20 million extra in humanitarian aid to double the UK support to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Now, this new aid will obviously include food and water and healthcare and everything else. There's one issue with this. Do you know, fun question, do you know how they're going to give that to civilians in Gaza? Do you know who they're going to give this to? Yep, the Ministry of Health in Gaza, i.e. Hamas. How is that going to work? Are you telling me Hamas are going to take this £20 million extra on top of everything else that Joe Biden just gave them, and the UK government and the EU and all these governments have been funding Hamas? You telling me Hamas are going to take this money and give it to the civilians? The same Hamas leadership that have been using their people, the civilians in Gaza, as a human shield. You telling me they're going to use this money to help them? How stupid do you think we are? in the establishment, those who are doing it. And the people at the BBC who are semi-reporting this as if we should feel guilty that we haven't done it sooner. They are making it sound like it was the obligation from the British government and the American government to give more money to Gaza. Why is no one talking about the other way around? Everything's, obviously, rightly so, focused on poor innocent civilians in Gaza who are losing their lives as well. But why are they not talking about the fact that Hamas are using them as a human shield? That's one thing. This is why we always have to show this as a reminder. This is what you're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. The camera, BBC News. The reality is that, you can see, but in the little TV thing, the screen, which is from the camera, the BBC camera, the angle is very, very different. It's a subtle bias that they find the right angle to do propaganda. Everything is propaganda. As Susie just said as well. Propaganda, lies, and manipulations, the art of war. But we also have, by the way, I'm going to come to the live chat and get your reaction as well. For those of you, if you're not familiar with the channel, throughout the live stream, we get your reactions as well and your questions. Let's talk about this. This is the joint statement released by the US government, the British government, the French, and all the others. This is actually from the White House themselves. Today, President Joseph R. Biden, Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada, that's another beauty, President Emmanuel Macron of France, Chancellor Olaf Scholz of Germany, and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy, and Prime Minister Rashid Sunak, they spelt it the right way this time, spoke regarding the ongoing conflict between Israel and the terrorist organization Hamas. See, they're under so much pressure that they have to clarify. Oh, terrorist organization Hamas. Yeah. Anyway, their leaders reiterated their support for Israel and its right to defend itself against terrorism and called for adherence to international humanitarian law, including the protection of civilians. They welcomed the release of 2 hostages and called for the immediate release of all remaining hostages. This is this morning, by the way, before Hamas made the announcement just now. They committed to a close coordination to support their nationals in the region, in particular those wishing to leave Gaza. How are you going to do that? The Americans have been negotiating with Egypt to create that corridor, to open the door. Egypt, every few hours, they'd say yes to opening the door the other way around, to send aid to Gaza, but they don't want people from Gaza to go to Egypt. Troublemakers, they say, according to Egypt and Jordan. But this joint statement says, the leaders welcomed the announcement of the first humanitarian convoys to reach Palestinians in need in Gaza and committed to continue coordinating with partners in the region to ensure sustained and safe access to food, water, medical care, and other assistance required to meet humanitarian needs. The leaders committed to continue close diplomatic coordination, including with key partners in the region. This is the key point. They are talking about Turkey. They are talking about Jordan. They are talking about Lebanon. Well, not necessarily a partner, Lebanon, but still, these are the stakeholders in the region. And now we know what's going on exactly, because while these guys are surrendering when it comes to their original plot, and their whole plan was, as I said, to take the hostages, to use them as leverage, to release the Hamas terrorists who are prisoners in Israel. And now they're scared because of what's been happening over the last 24 hours, the airstrikes. Now it's come out, Khalid Mashal saying, if Israel could stop the airstrikes and reduce them, we will just release the hostages. So we've given up, hands up. This is not going to change anything, as I said, because of the way the Israeli governments are under so much pressure to continue going after these guys. There's another issue with this as well. So this guy obviously is a liar. As I said, he also came out earlier to say, if any Israeli civilians lost their lives, that wasn't really the plan. That's why you went to the music festivals, I'm sure. He's also said, what happened on the 7th of October is a purely Palestinian Hamas decision. Hezbollah, Iran, Turkey are required to stand shoulder to shoulder, but everybody takes their own decision. You know why he's saying that? Because Hezbollah in Lebanon came out the day after the invasion having a meltdown, saying, why did Hamas not tell us about the plans? They felt left out, like the fat kid who is at the end of the queue in Disneyland waiting for more sweets from his mum. That was the reaction from Hezbollah. And these guys, who basically, they are being played by Iran because they are the puppets of Iran, despite the fact that they are Sunni and Iran is Shia, obviously Hezbollah is Shia. But Iran have been behind all this. We know why. Part of the reason the Iranian regime are desperate is because they are desperate. The uprising in Iran, they are losing control of the situation in Iran economically and politically. They need chaos. When you're under pressure, when you see division in your country, or anywhere really, what do you do as a dictator? You create an emergency, a crisis. We do the same in the West. We've seen so many examples. It's just the natural thing about the establishments that they do that. Now, there is also a lot of pressure, as I said, on the Americans and on the Brits and everybody else who are sending money to Gaza. Well, as I said, sending money to Gaza, the new extra £20 million is going to be sent to Hamas. And we have to trust Hamas to use that money to help the civilians, the same civilians who are human shields, right? There is only one problem. Nobody cares about those poor innocent civilians in Gaza. Nobody. Hamas don't care. The Palestinian Authority don't care. Egypt and Jordan, they don't want them. And the Westerners, all these liberals and leftists in West who've been protesting with the Palestinian flags, they didn't care about any of these people 3 weeks ago. They didn't, and they're not going to care. When the whole thing finishes, they're just going to go back to their avocado coffee shops and talk about the BLM movement or the Extinction Rebellion or whatever is going to be the next big thing. Greta Thunberg, maybe. All right. Let's go to the live chat, get your reaction as well. Sanity Clause says, don't listen to anyone, Israel. We know you have to look after yourself. You cannot rely on anyone. This is the other thing. How many times they've been interviewed by Sky News or BBC News recently, including the ex-Prime Minister, saying, we don't want your support. He was telling the Brits and the Americans, we don't need you to protect us. We are protecting you. Because that's obviously the gate. And they're Islamist, because the whole thing is the ideology of Islamism. The point is, they start with the Jews, they go to the next, which is basically Syria and of course Lebanon, and they take over any Christian there, converted or gone. Let's go to Vatican. After Vatican, you go to mainland Europe and the rest of Western Europe. Anyone, Christian, atheist, Jew, everybody will be a target. Obviously, they've been trying this for centuries and centuries, and they've been failing. And the Crusades was obviously a key moment, but their plan has not changed. That's the whole issue. Somehow people and the left wingers in the West keep falling for it, saying, "Well, they just want to live." It's a territorial disagreement. It's not a territorial issue from that side. They didn't care about the so-called Palestinians. First, there was no country called Palestine before anyway. Suddenly they care. Oh well, the Arabs are very passionate about that particular land. Really, they're the same Arabs who have 56 countries in the region, in that part of the world. The same Arabs who keep moving around throughout centuries and they've had history without being forced, by the way. Suddenly they become nationalists. It's just because the Jews went back to just create their own country that was supposed to be there anyway. And by the way, the whole point of it was that, and as you can see, that you can be an Arab, you can be a Christian, you can be an atheist, everybody could just live there. The whole plan was that. By the way, not everything went well in the 40s. Like the beginning of the whole chaos and the creation of the State of Israel, it did get aggressive and bloody. And of course, everything else that happened since. You don't have to love the Israeli government to be against Islamism and to be in favor of innocent civilians not losing their lives in Israel and other places as well, including Gaza. They are being oppressed by Hamas. Not by Israel, by Hamas. The innocent civilians in Gaza. All right. Dave Chandler makes a good point as well. War profits for those industrial military complexes sound familiar. And to anyone, this is also the other thing. Unfortunately, you're going to have certain people with their own vested interest, the globalist elite, who are going to be taking advantage of any of these situations. They're not going to be upset about any of this. There's going to be always people who will benefit from conflicts, unfortunately. Kit Kat says Jordan's cascading Israel just now. There's also the latest update is, of course, the Lebanese side. There's still attacks from there. And Israel have been extremely, which is quite rare until basically last night, been very patient with waiting instead of actually completely going in. 2 weeks ago, they said they're going to go in Gaza. And they also warned Hezbollah not to attack. They said if Hezbollah attacks, we're going to go in there as well, in towards Lebanon. They haven't done either yet. Now, they did do a raid earlier when it comes to Gaza, but they went back outside. It's a completely chaotic situation. But quickly, it's going back to The update we had just before the live stream started, they did release the two another Israeli hostages from Gaza. But again, they said this is because of the mediation efforts in Qatar, right? But we know the real idea was that they were terrified. Well, the American hostages were freed because they were terrified of America. This is happening because they're terrified of what's going on with the rest of the plan, because the plan is not working anymore. Well, the plan that they told us, unless they have a master plan, unless they've gone completely psychotic, some sort of like suicidal mission, the plan that they've told us was they're going to take all these hostages from Israel to use them as leverage to do an exchange with the prisoners that they have in Israel, the Hamas terrorists. And now they've given up. They're saying if Israel stops the airstrikes, we'll just release the hostages. And as we said, we've just done 2 of them anyway. Let's go to the super chats quickly. What do we have? Thank you so much, Welsh32, £5 super chat, saying, what about giving that 20 million to British disabled veterans of the British Armed Forces? Exactly, absolutely spot on. But none of that money has been used, unfortunately. Captain Shakespeare, thank you so much for your super chat support, saying, no one is in control, the governments have no power. But that is also very reassuring. But it is a good point in regards to those who think politicians are in charge, at least in terms of true power, in terms of actual, not in terms of just influence. I'm talking about basic policy decision making. They don't know. A lot of these politicians these days are amateurs. They don't have the level of experience that they had back in the day. People like Winston Churchill, for example, or even Margaret Thatcher. They don't have that level of access either. And there's more vested interest right now. There's a lot of corporations, a lot of, again, when it comes to weapon manufacturers and a lot of banking sector, a lot of people who now have become bigger than governments and politicians. They have become bigger in terms of influence than our elected politicians. So now that's the whole question. Do we actually have faith in the system when we are electing our politicians, when they don't actually have a full say in policy decision making, not in regards to having a group of lizards making decisions secretly? It's on a very basic level. Corporations and globalist entities have more influence than the actual politicians. Baby Uno says, there's a new revelation, ladies and gentlemen. My 2C supports Israel. Oh, I love this. This is brilliant. This is going to be a fun night. Let's go to the live chat. Let's get some reactions. Bring on the hate comments as well. It's been a crazy day. I could do with some laugh. See, we got some more Israel supporters. The other thing I like is that there have been some people who have been criticizing me. The people who know how the channel works know that I did this channel to challenge the mainstream media's dishonesty. People would say bias, but the problem, people don't have a problem with bias, they have a problem with dishonesty. Everybody knows my leanings and my biases. I give the facts, I then give my opinion, then you shape your own view. That's the whole motto. But some people who agreed with me on Brexit, for example, or other things, they used to say, oh, we like you because you're not biased. Now they don't like what I'm saying about Islamists and the threat of Islamism. Now they're saying, Maya, you've become biased. I don't think you know the definition of bias. Bias doesn't mean something you don't agree with. Bias is bias. So I was still biased when I was supporting Brexit. My bias was pro-Brexit. So the problem that they have is that they just don't like this opinion of mine, this bias. I'm still biased, but the point of the channel is I give the facts first, then I add my opinion and my bias, so you know where I stand. If Sky News was honest like this, it would have been fine. As long as people know where to stand. You can still get the facts, you could disagree with me, and you could still watch me. And I would have done the same with Sky News if they were honest. Jason says Palestine will trick Israel. We'll see how that goes. Bring on the hate. Bring on the hate chat. We are talking someone from the religion of peace or what? Oh wow! Do not bring up Muhammad. All right. We are not getting cancelled again. Who are preaching people can read the history. You know who are. Okay. I'll read that later again. Who are preaching people can read the... My brain doesn't work anymore. I'm sorry. Sunny Side Up says, Maya, I hate myself for loving you. That's a whole new level, guys. Melina says, I hate idiots. I love idiots. You know why I love idiots? Especially the haters. You know what they do? They click on every single video that we do on this channel and they leave the same hateful comments. They don't realize by doing that, they continue to fund me. The more they click, the more they watch, the more they're funding me. But on that also, again, we continue to have issues with the monetization and everything else on YouTube, which again, it makes sense because they have their own guidelines, but we have to do something about the survival of the channel. So we get a lot of views, we get more views than the mainstream media, but if we don't get monetized, and obviously we're expanding the team, I'm getting more producers and journalists to help me, and the website, 2c.com, 2ctv.com, I forgot the website, 2ctv.com, the new website, check it out, bookmark it later, not now, keep watching. But with the plans that we have, and if we want to expand the channel and actually compete properly, then we're going to need to find a new way. And obviously we have sponsorship partners, which again, some people don't like sponsorship stuff, but we're going to go towards, we're going to keep YouTube obviously as a main platform because in terms of reach, it helps. But in terms of the membership, with the membership bonuses and all the contents, we're going to go with locals, which is part of Rumble, which is more for pro-free speech. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. Let's quickly go back, do a reminder for those of you who joined late, what we're talking about, and then we'll get more reaction from the live chat. It's been an interesting day because of a couple of U-turns. One U-turn was about Khalid Mashal coming out to say we are going to be basically giving up the original plan. We are going to be releasing the hostages if Israel stop the airstrikes. Which is, again, as I say, the whole point of getting the hostages was to use them to get Israel to release terrorist members of Hamas who are in prison in Israel. Now, they're terrified of what's going on in Gaza with all the airstrikes non-stop, by the way. It's been very aggressive from Israel's side. So these guys have decided to say, okay, we surrender, we give up. And they've already released 2 Israeli hostages, as a sign of goodwill, so they could say, hey, can we have ceasefire? And then you know what they're going to do? They're going to use the mainstream media in the West to do their bidding. You know what they're going to do? They're going to say, as of tomorrow, Hamas and Gaza are now want to release the hostages, and they are calling for ceasefire, and it's the evil Israel that are refusing to do ceasefire. That's exactly what they're going to do. This is the only prediction I'm going to make. Within the next few days, this is going to be the new narrative. That, the Gaza side, they're calling for ceasefire. It's just they're so aggressive. The IDF and Israeli military are going in. But you started it. You need to be punished. They're coming for you. Just because, again, it's like I'm going around punching someone and I'll run away and they're going to chase me. And when I'm running away, say, can we call ceasefire? But it makes no sense. Why would you stop? Why would you not punch me back? So that's what's happening now. At the same time, the British government that came out did the joint statement with Sleepy Joe and Mini Macron and Justin Castro and all the others. They also said, we stand by Israel. They have to say that, right? They also now announced the extra £20 million in humanitarian aid to Gaza, which is an important thing to do, but they're giving this money to Hamas. This money is not going to go to the civilians in Gaza, I can assure you. They're going to use it for their own purposes anyway. But the BBC? The BBC. This is basically the BBC in a nutshell, this cartoon. It's perfect. It just shows how they report things. Okay, let's quickly go back to you guys as well. What was the other thing that we had as well? Yes, I forgot to mention. The other update from earlier tonight, if you haven't seen, it was on 2ctv.com on the website. Breaking news. The tube driver, do you remember a couple of days ago during the day when they had the pro-Palestinian protest in London? The tube driver in London who led the political chant while he was working as a driver on the train, saying free Palestine. He has actually now been identified and suspended. There were a lot of people actually now said earlier, yeah, he has been suspended, but they might just quietly reinstate him. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not really sure. They're going to continue the investigation. I don't know what else you need to investigate. right? Especially if he's already admitted. I don't know. But we are where we are. So far, these guys have surrendered in terms of their original plan. They want to release the hostages now if Israel give up and give up the airstrikes, but not just the airstrikes, the plan to invade Gaza to go after them. They're saying ceasefire, ceasefire. The whole point was for you to actually, you started this conflict. It makes no sense. Well, I mean, it makes sense because they're terrified, obviously. Kyle Williams says, stop all the aid to Gaza, divert the money to Israel. This can be the turning point between the West and the invaders. There's also this issue with Iran. I feel like one of the elements of this is about dragging Iran into this on purpose so that we could then, Israel could go after Iran and wipe out the Iranian regime. And considering now there's a lot of people in Iran and people I know in Iran who are actually supporters of Israel and the Crown Prince of Iran, who want basically Israel to go and target the government sites, military sites of the Iranian regime, so that they could finish the job, because the Iranians are still continuing the uprising against the Islamic occupiers of Iran. So all they need is Israel to do a bit of a support. There may be a couple of airstrikes in, again, not in residential areas, only in the government sites, and there are a number of targets that Israel have when it comes to the Iranian regime. If that happens, then some Iranians who obviously want Israel to do this, they could use that as an opportunity to continue to attack the government in Iran, the occupiers, because they'll be weakened. So, Michael says, thank you so much, Michael, for £5 super chat. Kieran says that tube driver who's been suspended now should be instantly dismissed for gross misconduct. Exactly. I mean, in Japan and in China, there have been a few projects where they built a train station overnight or over 2 nights during the weekend. They built a whole train station. In this country, when you want to do an investigation, it takes months. Boris Johnson's Partygate investigation took about 52 years. This investigation is still ongoing. They've suspended him and they're still investigating it. GB News are still investigating Dan Wootton. I'm not really sure why it takes so long to do an investigation. Just get rid of him. We saw the footage. He's clearly identified himself as the guy who was the driver, right? You suspended him. Get rid of him. Oh, absolute insanity. All right. 200 human shields in the tunnel. I mean, the problem we have is that right now we could talk about the Israeli hostages who are human shields, and some of them actually have been targeted as well, collateral damage. But there's also all the other civilians in Gaza, the Arabs, who have, again, some have been supporters of Hamas. The videos came out, and a couple of them actually went viral again today, showing some of the civilians were celebrating on the day when Hamas invaded Israel, and then now they're crying because their home has been destroyed. But the others, there are a lot of civilians in Gaza who are hostages as well, because they have been occupied by Hamas, and they don't like Hamas. So maybe their uncle voted for Hamas in 2006, doesn't mean they like it now. So this is the biggest issue that we currently have. Who wants to liberate those civilians in Gaza? No one, apparently, because, well, the narrative in the media in the West is that apparently they're occupied by Israel. Gaza, that's controlled by Hamas, apparently is occupied by Israel. It's a lunacy. It's absolutely crazy. All right. Exiled Viking, £1 a super chat. Thank you so much, Exiled Viking. Why are you exiled as a Viking? What's happened? Are you in Scotland? I could be in Scotland. Bring back the Shah, Maya. Yes, or make Maya the Shah. Well, make Maya the mayor of London first, and then when I get bored, then I'll become the Shah. Please stop getting us to fight your wars. Go back to the Middle East. Well, hang on, is this about me? Because the whole point of the channel, I literally rant every single day saying we should not get involved with the Middle East. We should stop interfering. We should fight for our own people. We should stop sending foreign aid to other countries. We should spending on our own people. We should stop immigration. We should control the borders. We should not support anyone in the Middle East right now. And according to this, the Astrofly Insight, Stop getting us to fight your wars. Go back to the Middle East yourself. This is the fault of our education system, and I'm blaming Tony Blair for this. And actually before that as well. This is progressive education where someone says something clearly, but you want to hear something else. So it's a good example of, try to listen better. Andrew says, Maya for London Mayor. See, Andrew listened carefully. Well done, Andrew. Eat more pork. Eat more bacon, ladies and gentlemen. Oh dear. What is going on with this? Alexander says, I find the whole situation really confusing. I just sort of wish people would just get on with their own problems. I know. But the problem is humans are still tribal and tribalist by nature. And the fights continue. The fundamental values haven't changed, unfortunately. Anne Barnes loves Maya. Thank you so much, Anne. I love you too. You're so weak. There's an apostrophe missing there as well and an E at the end. Red Knight agrees with me. That comment is ridiculous. I think I know which comment you're talking about, unless I'm guessing it wrong. RVX Gaming has joined, one of our regulars. So what have I missed? Maya wants to be mayor. As always, yep. Sally Ann, thank you so much for your super chat. You are a breath of fresh air. I appreciate it. What else do we have? It wouldn't surprise me that the SAS are in helping the Israeli military at this point. This is controversial, but I think we should get trained by the IDF. The level of expertise and skills you get from the Israeli military compared to us. By the way, not to undermine the SAS guys. I love them. They're very good. I'm just saying the rest of the establishment could learn a little bit from the Israeli armed forces as well. Michael says, I know that Maya is not gay, but he's very handsome. Oh dear. Yes, good assessment. Jane says that the chat is repeating itself. Apparently it is. Laura says, look at all the houses that they are going to be building. It will be going to be to migrants, not for people who have been born here. Absolutely spot on. We have talked about this on this channel as well. The longer we go without actually supporting our own people, the bigger the problem is going to get. And as I said, you import the third world, you become the third world. How many times do we have to say this? Maya, I've got Panorama on. It's complete pro-Palestine propaganda. It's all about the poor Palestinians. Firstly, cancel your TV license and stop watching Panorama. It's garbage. Secondly, go on 2ctv.com and make it a bookmark on your browser. It's a new website. It's brilliant. Maya beats his own drum. Absolutely, that's all I do. Who else is going to do it? But okay, so I'm guessing we should do a quick review of everything that's happened. Ashraf Fly Inside has replied, Maya, I appreciate the free speech. Great stuff. Thank you very much. Ashraf Fly Inside said, good debate as well. Thank you for your comment earlier, even though we disagree. All right, let's go back to reality. If you just joined us now, a couple of things. If you're watching live, if you're not watching it live, if you're watching after it was live, don't freak out that there are no comments because the comments were all in the live chat. Secondly, we're talking about the surrender of Hamas leadership, the political leadership, when it comes to their original plot, the whole point of invading Israel, which was to take the hostages. And they told us, these idiots, the beardy idiots, that we got the hostages so we could use them as leverage so that Israel could free our Hamas soldiers. That was the whole point. But Israel went a little bit aggressive, especially over the last 24 hours with the airstrikes, and Khalid is giving up. He's basically said, okay, U-turn. So as Maggie said, Khalid could U-turn if he wants to. The lady is not for turning. He's basically surrendering, saying, okay, we're going to release the hostages. For the love of God, please stop the airstrikes. Because they realize they're losing. They realize Israel are a little bit angry this time. It's not like before when Hamas could send a couple of rockets and Israel could send a couple of rockets back and everyone just go back to every day. It's not the same anymore. Israel have also overpromised a lot over the last few days. They've said, we are angry, we are going to wipe out Hamas. Like, they can't make a U-turn. If they do, then they'll be undermined. Then Hezbollah and Iran could then use it as a weakness. They will see weakness in Israel and say, well, they didn't really mean it. They didn't wipe out Hamas, did they? So Israel can't really afford making a U-turn on that. Keith, thank you so much for your super chat. Need to look out for Lebanon if Gaza falls. Absolutely spot on. This is one of the main reasons that Israel delayed the invasion was because of the fear of what's going to happen in the northern side with Lebanon, but also the other side, because you're going to get Turkey involved, you're going to get Iran involved directly, and Russia is not too happy. And actually, it will be in the interest of Russia if this conflict continues and if all the attention goes towards Palestine and Israel instead of Ukraine. So obviously, it's in the interest of Moscow for this chaos to continue, but in a way that Israel would struggle and they can't really win that level. And then the West will be forced to send more money to Gaza and Hamas instead of Zelensky. So it's all very chaotic, but we know that these guys are giving up, at least with the main plan, the original plan. That's why they've already released 2 Israeli hostages tonight from Gaza. They've also released the Americans, a couple of Americans the other day. It's interesting because they said, following Qatari mediation efforts, right? Now, I'm just going to say it's a coincidence. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not making any connections really. But that happened at the same time as Rishi Sunak announcing £20 million extra to Hamas in humanitarian aid. And don't be fooled, this money is for Hamas. They say it's for civilians in Gaza. But do you think it's going to be some sort of local councillor from Gaza like, hello, can I take the money? No, it's the Hamas leadership and the so-called Ministry of Health in Gaza. They're going to be in charge of receiving the money. And then somehow 2 hostages were released as well. I'm not saying this was directly connected, but these things and other events happen on the same day. Sarah Tucker says, get some moderators in chat. Are people kicking off again? The problem we did try moderators in chat before, but then they went rogue because then they started just banning people for saying things that they didn't agree with. If anyone's spamming, let me know. Put their username on the chat and I'll just ban them right now myself. If they're spamming, if they're saying something disgusting, then let them say it. It's free speech. I don't care. Free speech is free speech. If they say something controversial or stupid, let them say it. But if someone is actually spamming, let me know. Anyway, again, if you missed the beginning of the live show, this is also the joint statement from the White House. Well, it was joint, obviously, all the governments, but the White House released this. This is from Sleepy Joe, Mini Macron, Rashid Sunak, and Justin Castro Trudeau, and of course Olaf Scholz. I still don't have a nickname for Olaf Scholz. If you have one, give it to me. And Meloni. Something about melon, I don't know. Today, President Joseph Biden, Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada, President Emmanuel Macron of France, Chancellor Olaf Scholz of Germany, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy, and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak of the United Kingdom spoke regarding the ongoing conflict between Israel and the terrorist organization Hamas. I love how much pressure they're under to say terrorist organization. And then they said the leaders reiterated their support for Israel and its right to defend itself against terrorism and called for adherence to international humanitarian law, including the protection of civilians. They welcomed the release of 2 hostages and called for the immediate release of all remaining hostages. They committed to close coordination to support their nationals in the region, in particular those wishing to leave Gaza. How are you going to do that if Egypt is not opening the door? They did actually mention that as well, but another time. The leaders welcomed the announcement of the first humanitarian convoys to reach Palestinians in need in Gaza and committed to continue coordinating with partners in the region to ensure sustained and safe access to food, water, medical care, and other assistance required to meet humanitarian needs. The leaders committed to continue close diplomatic coordination, including with key partners in the region, to prevent the conflict from spreading, preserve stability in the Middle East, and work towards a political solution and peace. You can't have peace when you literally have a group of enemies who refuse to stop their ideology. You could have ceasefire, you could delay the conflict, which we've done for decades now. Okay, oh, Jim. £10 super chat from Jim saying Enoch Powell was called a racist. He must be looking down on us and saying, you should have listened. I'm sure he would have said it like that. You should have listened. I agree with Jim. But apparently, Enoch Powell was controversial, so you should ignore what he said. It's just disgusting behavior. They attack the messenger instead of the message. It's because they actually want to attack the message, but they can't, so they go after the messenger. They always do this. French Farmhouse Diaries, love that username by the way, saying, Maya, you're the man. Thank you for your media, and you are the media. And a lot of thumbs ups. Thank you very much, a French Farmhouse. Speaking to a French Farmhouse, guys. Exile Viking says, Maya, Lacey and Emily as news anchors. We're going to make some good announcements very soon, shortly. Obviously expanding the channel and getting a couple of other contributors to join. And it's going to be quite exciting, hopefully. Because again, I want to, for myself, focus on reporting live news and breaking news, political news. But we have all the other topics. We have the cultural stuff, the cultural war, wokey stuff that I don't want to get involved anymore because they're more important issues to talk about. I want to get other people, contributors, to join the channel to provide those things for you guys. Because again, we are talking about everything on this channel. We are the media. But some of you might only be watching some topics. Some people might just want to watch the stuff that I do on the EU or net zero. But we're going to get everybody, we're going to make sure this channel will provide things for everybody, essentially. You don't have to click on every video. It will be nice if you do. But hopefully it will be something for everybody. Anyway, 47 minutes. I have survived without drinking beer. Or anything really. Thank you so much for joining. I missed something in the live chat that was quite interesting. Where is it? I completely missed it now. Look what happened. Oh, there we go. What's this? Yogi. A lot of anti-Iran Arab countries are not happy with the mess Hamas created in the region. Do you think if Israel does not remove Hamas, the other Arab countries will? No, because if the problem is, on the one hand, the existence of Hamas will help the civilians in Gaza to stay in Gaza. So yes, it's in interest of Jordan and Saudi Arabia and all those countries for Hamas to stay. But also, if Hamas goes, Israel don't want to take over that part, because they just don't want it, which means Gaza is going to be even more chaotic, which means a lot of those people want to emigrate to Jordan, to Egypt, to Saudi Arabia. So if I were one of those Arab leaders, I'd be like, well, I don't like Hamas, but if they go, what if more chaos happens and then we're going to get more migrants unless they push them to Europe? Anyway, thank you so much for joining tonight's live stream. We're going to come back tomorrow morning with more updates for you guys. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Maya 2C and we are the media.